Hi friends, building knowledge bases using unstructured data such as documents, emails is becoming a common pattern as we can leverage LLMs to extract insights from these knowledge bases. In this video, we will see how to extract structured information from email files. Here we have an example of an email from ARK Investment. They send this daily email to their investors showing how they are investing. Here we have different ETFs. For example, this ARKK, that's an ETF. ARKW, that's another ETF. And within each ETF, we have this direction, the ticker, the company name, and the shares traded, the percentage of total ETF. All right. Now, this is a screenshot of the email, but this email is sent to their shareholders every day, and these tables are typically in the form of HTML tables. Okay. Now, we will use Llama Index and LLMs to extract all this information in a structured JSON format. All right. Now, the most important thing is defining the data schema, right? What we want to extract from these email files. So to begin with, what we have is, let me show. So here we have two email files. It's the same email. One is exported using Gmail, which exports emails in this EML format. And the second one is from Outlook, which exports in this message format. Okay, so we have this message saved in EML as well as MSG format. Now, first we are going to define the schema, what we want to extract from this email. Now, there are three elements. First, we have a list of ETFs. As I mentioned, this ARKK, that's one ETF, ARKW, that's another ETF. We have so on and so forth. Okay, so we have list of ETFs. That's at a high level, and within each ETF, we have some information like a date, etc. And then each ETF contains these companies buy and sell information. Okay, so at a granular level, we have this shares table, right? So what we are going to do is, we will use Pydantic. You can use any other framework to define the schema. First, let's define this base class for the instrument. Okay, so for the instrument, we have the direction, ticker, company name, shares traded, and percentage total ETFs. Okay, so here we define direction, that's a string, ticker is a string, the company name, that's also a string, and then these two variables, shares traded and percentage of ETF, these two are floats. Now, this is a Pydantic syntax. Now, the description is optional. So at a bare minimum, we need to define the variables along with their data types. Okay, so the granular schema we have defined. Now, all these instruments are within an ETF, right? So here we are defining a class for ETF. So this ETF, it will contain the ETF sticker, which is this ARKK, and then the trade date, which is string. This is the trade date. And then within this ETF, we have the stocks. Okay, the stocks, it's a list. Each element is a row for which we have already defined the data model as instrument. So as you can see from here, stocks is a list. Each element is of type instrument. Okay. So to begin with, we have started with these instruments as the base class, and then we went one level above to define the ETF class, which contains the ETF name, date, and then the instruments. Okay. And then finally, as I mentioned, the email contain a list of ETFs. So the final data schema which we want to extract from this email is, let's call this email data, which contains these ETFs, which is a list. For example, this whole thing is one list, and then this whole thing is a second list, right? So it's going to contain this list of elements. Each element is of type ETF, and ETF going to contain one of the elements from ETF is this stocks, which is a list of type instruments. The instruments class we have defined here. Okay. So in addition to these ETFs, we have at the end of the email, we have this trade notification date, the sender email date, as well as the email date time. Okay. This is the most important part. The rest, it's a standard LLM defining the prompt, defining an LLM, and invoking, making a call. Okay. So once we are able to capture the data schema, then it becomes easier. Okay. All right. So we are going to use this unstructured reader. So we define a loader, and first we are reading the email content. So here we have the email documents. Now these documents, it contain multiple files depending on the email, which might have the logos, the URLs, images, attachments, etc. Right? So all that information is within this variable. Now, if we look only for the text part, this is how it looks like. So here we are printing only the text part of that email. So the trade notification, a particular date, and here we have the content of that email. Similarly, for Outlook, these two clients, they save the email in a different format, but essentially it's the same email. Some of this information like images, etc., it might have been encoded within the text itself, right? All right. And then once we read the email content, it's super simple. All we need to do is just define the chat or the prompt template, and define an API call, and just make an API call. All right. So here we are using this OpenAI Pydantic program. As I mentioned, the schema is the most important aspect here. So that's why we are using this OpenAI Pydantic program. The rest, which you must have used a number of times if you have been into LLMs. So here we define the prompt. So here we have the role as a system, and the system prompt or the system persona is this. You are an expert assistant for extracting insights from email in JSON format. That's the key. And you extract data and results in it in JSON format. Again, we are stressing JSON. That's important. According to the JSON schema provided from given email message. And remember to return extracted data only from the provided email. Okay. Do not hallucinate or don't make up any facts, etc. And then from the, here we have the user role. User role is simply, here is the email message, and we pass the content of the email. Okay. We are using GPT 3.5 Turbo, and then define this program, we just make that API call, and this is the schema we define, email data, right? Here it is, email data. That's the schema we have defined. All right, and then LLM prompt, standard thing, and here we are invoking the function with the content of the email. Okay, so we get the output and then just print the output. So from here we have the output in the JSON format. As we discussed, the output is a list. Each element is an ETF which contain some ETF information, and then another list which contain this shares information, right? So here we have ETFs, which is a list, and then we have the ETF ticker and the trade date. As you can see, we have the ticker and the trade date, and then we have another list which is called the stocks, and each stock contain these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5 pieces of information: the direction, ticker, company name, and these two, shares traded and percentage total. Okay. All right. So within that ETF, these are all the shares or the instruments. And then here we have the second ETF with name ARKW. Again, some date, and within this ETF we have the instruments. Okay. Similar thing using this Outlook message. I have verified the output, which looks correct. So as I mentioned, it's a standard LLM prompt invoking the function call, etc. The most important part is defining the schema. So we understand our email structure clearly, and then we define the schema in a very structured format so that we can extract the relevant information in the correct format. That's all for this video. Thank you very much.